Alrighty, welcome back everyone. We just talked about the winners and the losers from this past weekend, and now let's put a full bow on that Week 12 slate that was just so much fun, at least from my perspective. I know some people called it a sleepy slate, and it was to a certain extent, but it was plenty of fun. I absolutely enjoyed it, and it was definitely a lot of things to pick from it. So let's go ahead and jump into this, and I think we got to talk about the biggest win of the weekend, and let's start with the Georgia Bulldogs. This was huge. It can't be overstated how much a big win this was. It was the win they've been waiting for pretty much all year. I think even that Texas win where you dominate, you absolutely roll that team on the road, it's a huge moment for that program. The offense was still terrible in that game. So there was still a little part of them that was still worried going forward. It showed itself against Florida the upcoming weekend, and now they got the win. They got the win where the offense pulled its weight, where the defense did the thing that Georgia defenses do, and they handled business when they very much had to and came back from a little bit of a deficit. A huge win for them, and definitely one that puts them almost, I don't want to say it with my chest because I'm very nervous something's going to happen, but almost definitely puts them in the CFP championship, barring any disaster over the next 2 weeks. And then you got Oregon. I think this is one of those games that has kind of been laughed at around Twitter world, around a lot of different people that really are just trying to hate. Let's just be totally honest. But at the end of the day, this was the game that showed me that Oregon could win a national championship. As crazy as that sounds, this was the win that showed me that they have the composure, that they have the energy, that they have the leadership that they're going to need to win those really tough games down the stretch of the season. That Ohio State game was absolutely incredible, and it gave me an idea of just how good this team was. This was the one that showed me that they were a national title contender, and as crazy as that sounds, I think the composure cannot be overstated, especially in your 8th straight game. So I feel very impressed with that one. Might have not been the most pretty win, but it was a win that just about everyone that's won a national title just has to get at some point. And then Florida. Florida got a huge win this past weekend. It wasn't necessarily the biggest win when it comes to the CFP by any means. It was huge for this Florida program. I can't overstate how much of a deal that could be down the road. When you look at, let's say 2025, we're sitting here around this time next year, and we're saying they're an 8-2 team in the CFP race, playing really well. DJ Lagway's playing as good as just about anyone in the country. Everything's going very, very smoothly. That will be the game. That will be the moment where all of these fans, all of these players, all of these coaches, even Billy Napier himself, really started to believe that they could turn a corner. There was a number of moments in this season where it felt like, man, Florida's really close. They're fighting really hard, but they're just not getting the win that they very badly need. They finally got the win. And so now it's just about building towards 2025. But as far as I'm concerned, that was the biggest win of the weekend because I don't think it just changes 2024. I think it changes maybe the next 5 years around Florida football. Then the individual performance of the week, we'll go back to that Georgia game. Carson Beck was incredible, and it wasn't necessarily that it was a hit you over the head performance with 500 passing yards, 4 touchdowns. It wasn't crazy by any means. He made all the plays he needed to make, including that rushing touchdown, including that rush early on in the game to get everyone into it. He made every play that they possibly could have needed him to, and he was the guy that they need him to, which is just take care of business. Make the play in front of you. Don't do anything too crazy, and then those downfield shots that you can make will open. So he played incredibly well, definitely deserves some respect. We are going to leave someone out that maybe you guys should think should be in here, but Jahdae Barron is someone I want to give some love to because I feel like he's not getting quite enough from around the national media as of right now. Jahdae Barron's your Jim Thorpe Award winner. If it goes any other way, we have a problem because this dude is incredible. He is all over the place. There has not been a receiver that he has faced that has had a good day against him, regardless of who that guy is. I mean, Alex Armstrong, he played when he was up against him on Saturday, 1 catch for 2 yards. It was domination from Jahdae Barron. He got a pick. He got a sack later in the game. He was all over the place. And then Alfred Collins is another guy that we should talk about in this game in particular. This kid is becoming a first-round talent. If you are not watching Alfred Collins right now, go ahead and flip him on because you're going to want your team to draft him in the NFL. I promise you that. He had a forced fumble that was really the sealer in this game, but even before that, the kid's just all over the place. Even in plays where he doesn't make the tackle, he's blowing up one of the offensive linemen and making it so much easier for someone else to make a tackle. So he's remarkably good. He's one of those guys that gets overshadowed by all of the stuff around Texas right about now, but he's as important as just about anyone and as talented as just about anyone on that entire team. And then Tyler Warren, just had to give some love here because the dude's a freak. I just absolutely love watching this kid. He's become one of my favorite players in college football this year. There are some people saying he should go to the Heisman ceremony. Let's pump the brakes just a little bit there. But at the end of the day, he had an incredible game against Purdue, 190 total. He was the leading receiver and rusher. Just, of course he was because he's that good. But at the end of the day, he's so much fun. And he might have just locked up the Mackey Award for the best tight end in the country. And then statement of the week is another one that I think is interesting. Colorado, to me, it was a relatively understated win. It was a relatively understated game with a lot of the other stuff going on around them. But at the end of the day, you go down early, you have a pick on the very first play, and then you just win in dominating fashion. You just absolutely roll this team every which way from Tuesday, and BYU falls just for fun, so you get a little bit more of a juice. But it was a statement to the college football world that this isn't just a run, this isn't just a really fun story, this isn't just a team that's playing really good football right now. This is a team that can make it to the CFP, no doubt about that. I'm a little skeptical if they can compete with some of the big boys when they get there, but at the end of the day, it's been an incredible story, an incredible coaching job, and we'll see if it has a nice ending there. For BYU, this one was huge, no doubt about that. I thought that, this is one of the reasons that I think Tulane is the best group of 5 team going forward, but as of right now, when you slow down a Navy rushing offense, that's the most insane thing that you can do. And it's not even that they slowed it down, not even like Navy got, 150, they got 200 on the ground. It wasn't close to that. Their leading rusher had 31 yards in this game. Tulane was absolutely dominant on the defensive side of the ball, and if that's the case against Navy, Army's going to have their work cut out for them. I can promise you that. And then South Carolina deserves a lot of respect here. This was a huge statement for them because even if they don't get into the CFP, which I've said they likely will not, if they do, then everything has happened over the last couple of weeks. Literally everything you can think of has happened that should not happen. But at the end of the day, it sets you up incredibly well for 2025. You have the fan buy-in, you have the booster buy-in, you have the talent on that team to make this a real SEC contender going into 2025. Finish it with 2 more wins, especially the one over Clemson. This team gets really, really interesting as we head into the 2025 SEC year. But now we'll get to the loser of the weekend, and we'll start with that Tennessee team. This one hurts. There's no doubt about that. They beat Georgia. There is no question. They are a CFP team. They're probably heading to Atlanta for the ACC or the SEC championship. So this one hurts. And now you're in the weirdest spot. You're in probably the worst spot in the CFP race right about now because you can't really do anything other than win the rest of your games. You have to wait for someone else to do something, which is just a nightmare. But as of right now, they still have a very good shot at the CFP, but definitely something to watch as we get into this weekend. And then Pitt, this season went from one of the best stories in college football to the end in a hurry. It was 3 weeks ago. They were 7-0. They were rolling into SMU for a huge one. They get rolled in that one. They come back home. They lose to Virginia. They go on the road. They lose to Virginia. They come back home. They lose to Clemson. Just very, very tough, and especially with the way that game ended, had to hurt just a little bit more than it normally would. And then BYU. This one is devastating. It doesn't necessarily break your hopes. It doesn't necessarily take you out of the Big 12 championship. What it does do is set up a must-win game in Tempe, Arizona, and that's less than ideal with how Arizona State is playing right now. So you're in a position where this game isn't necessarily the end of the world. You just set yourself up on the end of the world this upcoming weekend. And then surprise of the week, I think the biggest one to me was the Georgia line of scrimmage domination. I did not expect that to happen. They were all over Nico the entire day, and they had 5 sacks on it. Tennessee had 2. And if you were to ask me who's the better pass rush unit, who's the better defensive line going into the game, I would have said Tennessee. Pretty decidedly, I would have said Tennessee. But at the end of the day, Georgia rolled, and that offensive line played the best game of the year by a pretty comfortable margin. The other thing is Cade Klubnik's speed. This kid can scoot, man. He can really go. I did not realize he had that in him. I knew he could run. I didn't know he could run like that. I didn't know he could run away from cornerbacks for a touchdown, but that's exactly what he did. It looks like Matt Luke is just as confused as I was when I was watching this, but he definitely deserves some love. Obviously, a little bit of a minor thing in the grand scheme of this week, but incredible moment, and man, that kid can fly just a little bit more than I thought he could. And then this low-quality picture is because there was a pick 6 that happened in a Fordham game this weekend that just has to be talked about. I'm sure some of you have seen this video around the internet, but let's just break it down. Trey Bradford made a great pick late in the game for, I believe they were playing Georgetown. Yeah, they were playing Georgetown. They got a late pick late in this game, and he picks off the ball, takes about 2 steps, and immediately pulls his hamstring. And he's wobbling, looks like he might be going out of bounds, and then he just pitches it back to Alex Kemper, who takes it all the way. So, Alex Kemper, congratulations. You got credit for a pick 6 in this game, but didn't get a credit for a pick. As crazy as that sounds, that is what happened here. So, really insane. One of those things where it's as college football as it possibly gets. 3 things that never happen on a college football field all happen right in succession with each other, and it ended the way that a college football game would, where you have a pulled hamstring, you just toss it back to your friend, and he goes 80 yards for a touchdown. But wild finish in one of those games that it was a blowout at the end of the day, but this was one of those plays that just made me smile. I'll be totally honest with you. But then game of the week is a little bit of a tough one. It's a lot of really, really fun games that kind of went down to the wire. But we'll start with that New Mexico Washington State game. This game was awesome. It was so much fun. It was a little bit back and forth at times. Washington State held a 14-point lead at halftime, and then New Mexico State came back and was able to upset them. We got 2 just incredible quarterback performances that I really did think about bringing them up in the individual performances, but figured I would bring them up now. Deion Sanders, John Mateer were just incredible on Saturday, so that one was just so much fun to watch, including the upset. Florida LSU, it was a little bit stagnant at times. It wasn't necessarily the most high-flying or crazy game of the week, but to me, this felt like a balloon. This entire game felt like a balloon, and really the entire year for Florida in a lot of different ways, but specifically this game. It kept getting bigger. The pressure kept mounting. Everything kept getting a little bit more crazy. These fans kept getting a little bit more biting their nails and a little bit more nervous. And then Jaden Ball broke the run. And then he broke down the sideline. He crossed the goal line, and it popped. That place exploded. That place was absolutely insane. It was so much fun to watch. It was what college football is about. When you see someone cross the goal line, you see all the fans go crazy. That was a moment. And it was a moment that hopefully will be remembered for quite some time under Billy Napier at Florida. But as of right now, a huge win for them and a great game to go along with it. Then Missouri, South Carolina, this one was best. There's no doubt about that in my mind. I think you look at a South Carolina team that needed the win. You look at a Missouri team that badly needed the win. You had South Carolina rolling early in this game. It really felt like South Carolina was going to be able to pull away. The Missouri offense wasn't quite where it needed to be. But then Missouri came storming back in this game, scored a touchdown with about a minute left, felt like they had it, and then South Carolina came right back down. Rocket Sanders crossed the end zone, and that stadium just loses its mind. I love that stadium so much. I haven't had the pleasure of being able to go up there to experience a game, but I'm going to try to very badly. You know what? I'm going to say it on here. I will be at a game in South Carolina, in Columbia, South Carolina, for a game next year. I'm going to say it. I'm going to make that statement. If everyone hold me accountable on that, because I have to get to that stadium. I have to get there at night because it's special. There's no 2 ways about that. But let's take our final break here, going a little bit long today, but let's take our final break here, and when we come back, let's break down my top 15 teams in the country. We have a little bit of a shakeup that might make some people mad, but at the end of the day, I'm going to stick to my guns on this one, so we'll break it down right after this.